Beautiful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's lovely to see you. We will just wait a couple more moments to see if there's other people that want to come in live. But in the meantime, I'm so happy to introduce Claire to you. Some of you might have seen previous interviews and sessions that I've done with Claire. She's such a incredible woman in so many ways, and someone who I'm so deeply inspired by. And there's so many different things that we could have spoken about today, but I really wanted to use the opportunity of our time together today to talk about business, because I love the way that Claire does business. I feel like she really embodies the practice of business as a sacred art, like really soul-led, soul embodied. And I know that so many of you inside Bhakti Club have your own businesses or are self-employed and struggle, honestly, a little bit with the juxtaposition of business and spiritual practice. So I feel like this is going to be a very rich conversation for you. Welcome, Claire.
Hello, thanks, Katie. It's an honor to be here again.
Yeah, thank you. I was just saying, because Claire originally, well, not originally, she grew up in the UK like me. She lived in Australia for a few years and she moved back to the UK not so long ago. And I was just saying to her, even her background looks so English. She's in a little stone cottage in the north of England, which makes me very envious, and especially at the moment because we're in winter, so it's that kind of cozy vibe. Claire, I want to jump in by just asking you, actually, it sort of is quite pertinent because obviously you're in summer in England and we're in winter here in Australia. And I wanted to start by talking to you about the idea of cycles in our business. Like, I know for me, if I look at my business and how I operate, and it's probably taken me quite a long time to really notice this about myself, but I'm definitely someone who goes in phases of a lot of energy and a lot of like drive and productivity, and then retreat into rest and needing a lot of quiet and solitude, which is hard to get in my life with so many children, but really needing that retreat time. And so my business has these sort of phases and cycles because of that. And I'm wondering, for you, how do you find how do cycles fit in with your work in the world? And maybe just also for those that don't know, you might want to tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. So my business baby, my other child, is Indie Rose Rituals, and I make natural ritual oils, body oils and aromatherapy oils infused with gold. And that started in Little Mullumbimby in New South Wales in 2020, very organically, and it's just kept going. And I relaunched last summer here in the UK and rebranded, and so it's been a big cycle this past year, and definitely this business, this entity, this being that I work with, that is Indie Rose, goes in cycles. It's like it is a temple art that I'm creating. It's a temple structure, and any kind of sacred temple, any kind of place of reverence can't just constantly be open and have an influx of energy constantly pulsing through it and people receiving from it constantly. It's got to close down and go through times of coming in to recalibrate itself and do the inner cleaning and just have that inner circle, the smaller circle within it. So that's how I see it energetically. And it's interesting because last summer I launched the rebranding, as you know, Katie. And I had this like big expectation, big intention, like instantly, without having any kind of UK audience, it was just going to like explode, and it was going to be the best summer and everyone was going to know about Indie Rose. Obviously, it was the complete opposite to that because I had no audience here. And I didn't really honor that cycle, that yes, I was coming in the British summertime with that boom energy, ready to be all in the yang and out there energetically and launch, but that's not what the energy of Indie Rose was doing. I was trying to go with the opposite to what the business energy was actually trying to tell me. So then going into the cycle of autumn and winter, that's when the descent really started to happen. And it's been really hard. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Between launch and now, coming back into this summer energy of feeling that build up of like, oh, yes, like it's time to get out there and be seen and grow and expand and strip off the layers and allow this entity to breathe and be out in the world. It's been a big death initiation, and you know that is one of the biggest cycles you have to learn to roll with in your, if it's a business, I want to refer to everyone personally as I can on this, like whether it's a business or a project or a side hustle or a child, yourself, like whatever you're nurturing right now, the death cycle is the biggest part that we have to learn to be comfortable with. Because without that, and Katie's given me some very, very good advice recently on this as well, as like, don't give up just before it's about to happen, because that's what can happen in the death cycle. It's so uncomfortable that you're like, no, I'm giving up, I'm done, that's it. But actually that's like the part before spring comes alive. That's after a very long winter season where you're like, oh, I can't take any more of this long, dark death energy of winter, where but just before that's going to end, then spring comes into bloom. And we all want to be in that spring summer energy with projects and relationships. We want to constantly be in that energy that it's alive and it's prosperous and it's seen and it's woo, we're blossoming and blooming, but we just can't. And nature, that's why me as a woman, and personally my biggest teacher is Mother Earth, is the cycles of nature, is because she shows us everything we need to be in our full abundance of the actual natural cycle, not this man-made hustle, pump, 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 like it's summer all year round. And then we wonder why most of the populations doing that are burnt out, stressed, ill. So it's me and many, 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 many other women and men around the world are reprogramming that. And it's not easy, because you feel like you're failing in that death cycle. And I'm sure you can relate to that, Katie.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. And I love that you make the mirror between how we are in our businesses and how we show up in our relationships. Because I know for me, a real pattern in relationships in the past has been, whether it's a friendship or an intimate relationship or whatever it is, when things get hard, I'm a little bit, the tendency is like, oh, that's it, cut it out, and impatient. And I've definitely gotten better with this as I've aged, but that's certainly my pattern. And it's been the same in business. I'm like, not too hard. I haven't got time for this. I haven't got energy for this. And it's for me, it's such a sabotage move. And I've done it enough times now in both relationship and business to catch myself and go, hang on a minute. I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's feeling very flat. There's a sort of death rebirth cycle here. And I'm just about to throw everything away for no reason. It's not the right move. And sometimes we need, sometimes we can self-coach ourselves, and sometimes we need a wise spirit to come along and go, no, 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 don't throw it all away. Hang in there.
yeah.
And it's the cycle. And, like, as you were just saying, the darkest time comes, like, what is it? The darkest moment is just before the dawn, or something like that. The hardest times are often just before the shoots start to grow again, just before spring emerges. And it can be really tough. Claire, I love the way you speak about Indie Rose, your business, as this sort of separate entity, all of its own, like separate from you and with her own, almost her own spirit or her own soul. Yeah, I'd love you to talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how do you tune into the energy of Indie Rose and what Indie Rose is telling you versus your own ego or your own will or your own, how do you let Indie Rose steer the ship?
Yeah, I don't know who I first heard this off years ago, as whether it was one person or probably multiple people that said, you know, when information gets channeled to Earth at certain moments in time, lots of people receive that information all at once. So it's like sometimes when you receive an idea or a vision or a channeling, you want to own it. You're like, oh, that's mine. Like that's my creativity. I'm going to create that. I'm going to own it. But actually, 100 other people receive that channeling at the same time. And that's why a lot of businesses with same ideas or same energies or same projects come at the same time. Like information gets dropped on us. And I mean, we can go down big rabbit holes with that, but I do believe that we get channeled, we get information given to us when our soul is ready to receive it. And this, the entity and the energy and the vision of Indie Rose came to me when I most needed to receive it as a single parent. And it was really the remembrance for me of temple worship and being a temple worker, whenever that is. I'm not going to go into like beliefs of past lives or whatever that is. It's too complex to even put into a scenario. I got the channeling and was starting to remember some knowledge of being what it would be like to be a temple worker. And I don't attach to that because it might not even be my reality, but it ran through me. And it was very, at the same time, I got introduced to gold through a master, an Israeli master gold worker, and essential oils at the same time. And it was just very clear, like, boom, make these and then keep going. And I was doing temple work on women's feet at the same time. So doing energy work and massage on women's feet, and wanted to make these oils to really honor and ground women's energy body. And yeah, I've really journeyed with the the entity that is separate to me of Indie Rose. Like, this isn't mine. And there's I know there's other beautiful beings on the earth right now that have received and are receiving the same channeling of what used to happen in temple structures and what needs to happen now and what can happen in the future to bring us back into our sacred vessel, to honor ourselves and fully embody ourselves as sacred, and the deep reverence and honor that it is to be alive. And, you know, that's not the norm in society, to really honor this vessel. It's usually in religion given out and outsourced to a figure outside of ourselves. So yeah, that's the template that's come through, and I've really journeyed with that energy. I've gone through many shamanic processes with meeting the energy and meeting the beings that help with that. And you know, recently I had a session with a beautiful woman, and she really helped. There was a bit of, I got a bit stuck and entangled with the entity of my business, and I didn't know where I was and where it was separate. So I just had some help to like relieve that entanglement so that I could see the bigger picture again. So I really believe that anyone who's getting an idea or that drive and that desire to create something, it's being channeled through on a soul level for a reason. And whether it's going to actually become something, to not be attached to it, to just let it move and just let it do its thing. If it's meant to be something physical in the world, it will be. And if not, it's just a beautiful experience of letting energy move through us
Mm.
and being
I think
receptive.
when something is like really meant to be manifest in the world, we feel it as such a calling. Like for me, I know, I'm a writer and I write books. I have written a few books, and I have ideas for books all the time. Like I'm constantly thinking, oh, that would be such a great book, or I'd love to write this or that. But when a book is really going to be born through me, it's not just an idea, it's a calling. It's like there's no choice. It's not like I get to go, oh, maybe I'll write that, maybe I won't. It's like, no, 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 it's coming. The download is coming. And I feel like it can so often be like that in business as well, where, you know, when I think back to when I opened my first yoga studio, for example, it was just such, it was almost a whim. It was almost a whim, but it wasn't. When I think about it, it wasn't a whim at all. It was literally just the opportunity was presented to me by the universe, and I just had to follow along. I had to be available for the ride. And so it's so wonderful when we get those sort of downloads and we get those, that like nudge from the universe, and then we get to kind of follow along. And what I love about that is, for me at least, and I'm really interested in your perspective on this, Claire, it takes my ego out of the equation, because it then becomes not about me and whether this thing will be successful or not successful or whether I'm doing it right. It's literally like I just have to get out of the way and do the work to put the thing out into the world. And it's like you said, there's no attachment, which doesn't mean you don't care. It just means there's a recognition that this is a lot bigger than just an idea I had, or my, you know, my desire or my ego wish. It's literally, it's its own offering in the world. Does that make sense to you?
100%. I think it's just that really what we're being asked to do is remain curious and open. And
Yeah.
that is, it's relearning a lot of societal shit. Sorry for in front of a little girl, I just realized you there. Oh, naughty. That's what we're reconditioning. Lots of stuff that tries to dampen. Don't be curious, don't remain open, don't have ideas, follow this structure, follow this book, follow our pattern that we've created. And we kind of get blocked from channeling from a deeply innocent, curious and open place within our body, to just let it flow, let it be a creative energy that pulses. And without being attached, I think what I've really learned is how to actually pulse with it. Instead of just like letting it come and not feeling it, how to actually feel it like a relationship, to truly drop into every part of your being with the energy of the creative force that's moving through you, without attachment of like marriage, like, oh, it's got to be forever, and you know, this is my creative project and I'm going to marry myself to it to the end of my days and that's it. If we can just feel it on a deep central level and let it pulse through us, but when it's done, allow it to be done, because it's the next step to then receiving the next.
And the next cycle will come out of that. And I think, I mean, you use the word curious, which I love. I think there's also another way in which we can sort of shut ourselves down. One way is to dampen the curiosity, but another is something around risk, because for us to honor, sometimes to honor those downloads and to honor those intuitive nudges involves a bit of risk. You know, we might have to financially back ourselves, for example. I mean, for you, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey with this, because your business is product based. So that means at some point you have had to invest resource into product. That, I'm sure, like, how was that for your nervous system, and how was that for your bank balance, and how did all that work? That kind of like backing yourself in the real material realm of like, okay, I'm going to launch a product-based business.
Oh, it's been so big, still is. Like, still processing that. And what I've really realized recently is this has never been done in my lineage. And it was actually my dad that honored this. He was like, when I got my UK business registration certificate, he was like, wow. He was like, do you know you're the first person ever in our family to like be a director of a business? And I was like, wow. And then when I've really tapped into that, there's never been a woman in my lineage that has owned their own business or looked after their own money. You know, it was the old school generations of the women work, but the man looked after the money, and there's never been much money in my lineage. So, you know, when I get these challenging moments of like, oh, I've got business debt, like it's not bringing in what my expectation of it should be bringing in hits, I'm realizing that that isn't actually mine. That's a DNA program within my body, because I don't actually know this feeling. It's never been done before. So it's like I'm the first breaking the cycle in the ancestral line of being a woman that owns her business, that owns her passion, her desires, owns her own money. So yeah, it's been risky. There's been it's been Indie Rose Rituals, I'm very proud to say, has been so grassroots from literally my little townhouse in Mullumbimby. I had a separate room for my business, so I could close the door and leave it behind. And it's literally just been like, create 50 oils, create 100. Oh, get a wholesaler. Let's buy 500 bottles, like slowly like that. But coming back to the UK was a big, like, go all in or don't. And I really didn't want to birth it, because I just felt like, oh, I was tired, and I felt scared. I was like, to get this going here, it's going to take, in grand scheme of financial investment in business, it's not a lot of money. But for me, as a single woman, it was. And because it's never been done before in the lineage, I had no one to like reflect that off. So it's just, yeah, I feel like personally at the moment, I'm going through massive upgrades within my being of actually what does it feel like to embody a state of opulence, because it's never been done in my family before. And I've got a daughter, and I don't want to pass down lack or doubt into her lineage, that you can't do it as a woman, or we can't do it on our own, we can't invest in ourselves, we can't become opulent and rich on a deep embodied level. Is so I'm so glad I've gone through it, and it's a big process, yeah, to invest in product, in anything. And it's not just financially, it's all the energy and the hours that you put in that no one's paying me for. And so, you know that feeling, Katie, sometimes it's just too much. You're like, oh, honestly, I just want to be employed by someone and actually be paid for what I'm doing here. But it's just holding the faith, just
Any of my friends, and so many of my friends are self-employed and run their own businesses now. I guess you just kind of attract people that do similar things to you. We always have the dreaming of getting a day job joke. Like, it doesn't matter how successful your business is, there's always these moments that you have where you're like, oh, wouldn't it just be so nice? Just like in the same way that when you have a day job, you dream of having your own business. Wouldn't it be so nice to just have a reliable salary and boundaries around work and all of that? And I was just thinking as you were speaking then, Claire, about what, the definition of hard work. And we think of hard work as being like maybe long hours, or, sort of really applying ourselves to something. But as you were speaking, I was thinking, what so many of us women are doing in our businesses, and what you're describing you've done with Indie Rose, is the hard work of overcoming legacy or overcoming challenges that are more in the energetic realm and the spiritual realm than the material realm. Like, for me, when I launched my business and I was really growing, particularly the online, incarnation, let's say, of my business, so much of it was around this journey of, I can stand on my own 2 feet financially. Like, I can do this. And just every day really counseling myself and coaching myself around that. And that's energetic work. It's got nothing to do with building a website or finding customers, or, all of those things happen. But the hardest part really for me, I can definitely say, is that sort of legacy, recreation of legacy, and um honoring of self, and not, noticing the sabotage patterns and catching yourself, like all the spiritual work. So I wanted to ask you, because I know that you're someone for whom ritual and ceremony plays such a huge role in your life, and I want to ask you, how does ceremony and how do ritual, what role do they play for you with Indie Rose and for you as a woman running your own business?
Oh, such a massive role. And yeah, because you're so right. Like for me, that always comes first. The energetics and the spiritual and soul aspect of everything within comes first. And then, as we're all remembering time and time again, we forget and then we remember, we forget and we remember, that we're remembering that everything is energy, and nothing is not energy, and everything is interconnected. So that's not small business. Like you're just like, oh great, oh you read a book or you do a course and you remember it and you're like, great, everything's smooth sailing. It's a constant journey of forgetting, and then you're like, oh bugger, I forgot, I've remembered again. You remember that the energy is everything. So yeah, that plays a massive role in everything that I do. I'm a dedicated twice a day meditator. I'm actually doing my meditation teacher training at the minute, because I'm kind of like, whatever I do on a mentorship level with anyone throughout life, there has to be a base level of devotional practice every day to show up for self every day. Nothing else can happen if you're not doing that. We can try, but we're building on shaky foundations. You can try add more stuff onto your load, but if the foundation of the day-to-day self-care practice isn't solid, then that just gets wobbly, and a big wind or a big wave comes and you get to see how stable you are, don't you, when you're in your day-to-day practice. But like specifically Indie Rose as an entity brings me into a kind of ritual practice that I probably wouldn't do if I didn't have this business in my life and this product. It brings me into a very, I mean, meditation does as well. It's a very simple, subtle realm. But Indie Rose brings me into this current of beauty and the golden thread, I suppose you can call it, the divine that weaves through everything. It's really an anchor for me to remember the divine and the sacred. And it brings me back to that within myself time and time again. When I forget, I then remember again, it's okay. You're just remembering yourself as sacred, and it's not a race. There's no one like ticking off a list that you got to the completion phase by a certain moment or a certain time. It's bringing back, well, how, when I did forget and I remembered again, how was the transition between that? Did I just smile and laugh, or did I sit in judgment of myself for days on end? Like, oh, you idiot, you forgot. You've spent all these days beating yourself up, not doing your energy work, not doing your practices, not remembering how interconnected everything is. It's like, well, how is the transition period between the forgetting and remembering is the ritual, I think, for me. I'm not a ritual keeper of like light a certain amount of candles and doing incense, and like that is beautiful ceremonial work that I absolutely love to do. I more do that in group scenarios. But day to day, the ritual for me is the remembering, and it's very subtle. It's so subtle. And it's that deep listening that women were so good at. This is what we're so exquisite at as women, and what we're remembering time and time again is like, oh, you can listen and subtly feel the pulse of the earth and all of life moving through us.
Mm.
when we're not so busy and stressed. But if we're busy and stressed and we forget, then it's okay as well. So I'm constantly, it's like putting the pieces of the puzzle together of like, yeah, like Rome wasn't built in a day. And my bigger vision for everything that I'm doing with Indie Rose and letting the channel move is I want to build a temple, like an actual physical structure where women and men, not just women, can come and get deep temple work done and be what I would pride myself on to create is people stepping into the space and feeling a sense of safety that they've never felt before. And so for me to create that, I suppose this business is teaching me that I have to create that for myself on a day-to-day level. How can I drop the armor of the heart? How can I drop trauma and grief and see, even though the world seems so scary sometimes, how can I as a woman come back into a soft, open, receptive heart time and time again by remembering that the divine is always moving through me? And it's so
Oh,
subtle.
so beautiful. It's a prayer in itself. So beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gosh. I, you know, it's I shared in our previous conversation, and the recording for that I shared with these ladies so they can watch it if they want to, the story of how I came to Indie Rose and how a friend of mine had, in a ritual space, given me some of the oil, and then I had used it and had such a strong connection to it, and then connected to you, Claire, and like really felt the oil called me, and really felt the magic and the depth in the oil, which is quite sounds like quite a kind of odd thing to say, really, but it really came through. Like, it really, the vibration really came through. And I, I really want to encourage everyone in Bhakti Club and those who are listening and watching the replay, to get some of the oil, because it is the most exquisite oil you will ever use. It's so beautiful. And we've got some discount codes that we'll share. This feels like a very superficial question after everything that you just said, which was so powerful, but I do just want to ask it because I think it's important. And then I'm going to open up and see if anyone on the call's got any questions. But I want to ask you about the packaging, because it's so special and beautiful, and like literally in itself a ritual, like the boxes and the just the text, everything. It's like divine. So just tell us a little bit about the process of how that all evolved and how you came up with all of that.
Well, again, it's another deep experience because I love depth. I got my first packaging done in Mullumbimby and I received it and I literally cried because I'm a bit of a perfectionist with how things look. And I was just like, no, this is not it. But everyone else is like, it's gorgeous. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay. Anyway, the day will come, I'll rework that. And in between, before leaving Australia and moving back to the UK, I was working very intimately with my mentor. And I went to our weekly session and I burst out crying. She's like, what's happened? I was like, I hate my box. I hate my box. She's like, she was working with her mentor. This is why it's so good to have mentors, because we're all just mentoring each other. She was working with her mentor on a shamanic, very deep shamanic journey with the structure of the box. So that's a big topic. I won't go into like actually what a shamanic journey with a box looks like, but she then started taking me on this shamanic mentorship with the symbol of the box. And that just is unfolded to then move into the UK. Like, I designed it, I researched it. Obviously, the designers put together the overarching design of colors and logos and everything, but I found the box and created how I wanted it to be because I just couldn't create a standard box. And I still don't know how to express that with words, to be honest. It was just a process that it has to be felt. And the experiences I've had so far with people experiencing the packaging is like, wow, this is not just a box, is it? And I'm like, no, it's not. And I don't even need the conversation to go any further than that, because I know they're feeling something on yeah, I don't know what it is. It's some kind of transmission of just doing it, something unique, I think. And there's something within that box that's going to lead to greater things. I really don't, it's still a mystery to me, but the box is not an ordinary box. And I'm so glad I went with it, because it's not a cheap box. And that was the risky part of investment. I was like, oh, really? Like, am I really investing this in a box? Like everything everyone else is doing right now, going super eco, super minimal. I was going the opposite. And I'm like, ooh, how is this going to be received? And I was like, no, even if you do it eco, if it's just a standard box, you take the product out the box and you're like, oh, nice box, chuck it in the recycling bin. That energetic, I had to shift that energetic to like, oh, this isn't just your ordinary box. I'm just going to tuck that away and I'm going to keep that box.
It's funny you say that, because I couldn't throw the box away, and I'm such a minimalist when it comes to stuff like that. I live in a fairly small house with all my children, so we have to be, all five of my children, we have to be pretty conscious about what sticks around, because otherwise it would just be very cluttered very quickly. So I'm very good at, recycling, repurposing, re-gifting. But that box, I was like, no, this box is precious, I'm keeping it. And it reminded me, actually, I've got the tarot deck of The Wild Unknown by Kim Krantz. If any of you, I don't know if anyone's into tarot, but that's a very special, magical tarot deck. She's incredible, incredible artist and woman. And that tarot, that box of tarot cards comes in packaging that is exquisite and very unique and very much part of the ritual. And actually, when I received Indie Rose, when I received the oils, I had the similar feeling. And I've kept the Wild Unknown tarot box as well. It's all falling apart now because I use the cards all the time. But it's like the ritual begins with the box, and with the sort of like, yeah, just the ritual of opening it and kind of being in the ceremonial space with it. So it really is a lot more than just packaging. I really felt that. I really get that. And it's beautiful. And, I think that we shouldn't underestimate the power of simple beauty, that something is elegant and carefully made and thoughtfully made and beautiful, because life can be brutal and it's busy and we're overwhelmed and we're frazzled and we're doing a million things and we're worried and we're anxious. And just to have these moments in our lives, in our day, where we get to drop into and experience true beauty is such a gift. It's so precious. And I genuinely, really, your oils and your work, and I've done ritual work with you too, your ritual work, it all creates that. It creates that beauty in those moments of connection with the divine. And that's what we're all about. So yeah, it's really powerful. I want to open up and see, does anyone who's on the live call have any questions for Claire? And then we're going to finish this evening with, Claire's going to guide us through a beautiful solstice ritual, because we're on the solstice and we're very close to full moon. And apparently it's quite unusual for solstice to be happening on full moon. And I was reading, for us, if you're in Sydney, I know we've got people from all over the world. And weirdly, I've just noticed in Bhakti Club, a lot of people in Western Australia, there's a very strong Bhakti Club Western Australia contingent. So if that's you, shout out to you. But in Sydney, we're going to have a strawberry full moon on the solstice. So that's really, that's very potent.
On the solstice.
It's full moon on the solstice, which is very unusual, apparently. It doesn't happen very often. Anyway, before we go into the ceremony, does anyone have any questions I want to ask Claire?
So a little hand.
Yeah, that was Shondel's daughter. I don't know. I don't think, does your daughter have a question, Shondel? She's just waving her arms around. Diane made a beautiful comment in the chat. She said, so much admiration for the courage and integrity in this room. I haven't started my future business yet, and just getting the courage to put something out there is huge. We are cheering you on, Diane. We're all right behind you. And it's spaces like this where we talk about the courage it does take that can be so inspiring and formative. So I'm so glad that you're here, because when we come together as a collective, we really amplify what's possible for each other. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Claire, I'm going to hand over to you to guide us through our beautiful solstice acknowledgement and close our time together today. Thank you, my love. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katie. It's so good to be here having these conversations. It's so important. So important. I just want to get the pulse just for everyone who's live, because live is so good. I know this is going to replay, but just pop your hand, finger up if you do have some kind of business, craft, entity that's alive right now that you're doing and it's yours. Who's got an idea, something that they're feeling the pulse that they want to birth?
Looks like everyone. I think everyone.
Right. So let's just close our eyes down. You guys are in evening time, and whoever watches the replay, just get comfy, just shift into a gear of feeling comfortable and close your eyes down. Yeah, turn your camera off if you want to not be seen. And just start taking some deep breaths. And breathe in through the mouth like a straw, and then out through the nose. And just keep that cycle. And then totally relax out through the nose. And just start feeling that shift of relaxation when on the out breath, and with the in breath in through the circular mouth, like you're sucking in through a straw. Just know that that in breath is bringing an influx of vital life force into your body. And on the subtle level, just start really dropping in to your breath. Natural, don't force it. Just be in this moment of breath. And on this solstice, where summer in the northern hemisphere and winter in the southern hemisphere for a lot of you ladies, yes, wherever we are, whether we're twisting towards the sun or we're twisting away as it is in the southern hemisphere, the sun is still the center of the universe. The sun is the creative force that shines all life, that shines all vitality to earth for us to grow. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the summer or the winter, the sun is still it. The light, the essence of radiance is always there and always shining. Even in the nighttime, the moon is only visible because of its reflection from the sun. So as we're tuning in with this full moon, everything is growing, everything is being created from the force of the sun. So just start to bring that sun energy. It's going to be, let's let this be a very authentic vision, felt sense for you. I'm not going to explain how you should see or feel the sun. I want you and your uniqueness to start to feel the sun's energy. You might feel its warmth. You might see a light behind your eyes starting to get brighter. You might just feel that, yes, that remembrance of, oh yeah, the sun. It's so powerful to remember the sacred energy of the sun that is beaming down on us. And just weave in that connective energy into your heart now. And I want you to just see inside your heart that your business, your craft, your offering, your desire, if you've got a project, a business, whatever you're creating or have a dream or desire to create and birth into the world, I want you to see this now in your heart as a rose. And just ask your heart, ask your mind right now, what is the color of this rose within my heart? What is the color of this rose within your heart that is right now represented as your business, your craft, a project that is birthing into the world? Once you feel clear on what that color is, I want you to start bringing that rose to life. Start to see the color of that rose. Start to see what it looks like. Is it tight? Is it starting to bloom, or its petals falling? Is it a single petal? Is it a seed? Start to see what this rose looks like for you. Just breathe into this rose. And as you just breathe and bring a deeper awareness to this beautiful rose within inside your heart, I just want to speak a bit and remind you that the life cycle of a rose can be so short. It can be so seasonal. The actual blooming and the blossoming, to see the beauty of the rose, is actually quite a short cycle. But without the rest of the unseen workings of this beautiful rose in your heart, the seed, the roots, the vines, the stem, the leaves, the water, all the elements, the earth, the fire, the sun, everything that is co-created as a one unified force to make the beauty of your rose available, is all working all the time to support the rose to bloom and blossom, even if it is just for a couple of days that this beautiful rose gets to be witnessed in the world. Just bring that understanding into your heart. Just bring a softness that wherever you are in your business, wherever you are birthing your creation, we want this softness of the tender heart to open and shift and let go any shame, any doubt, any fear that you're holding about this birthing process that is stopping you from actually seeing the beauty and the true essence of what is channeling through you, what is moving through, is full creative force, is full life force, bringing your rose into the world. And it's nobody else's business how long your rose blooms for, what color it is. All you need to know is all the channels that have to support this rose to open are available to you. You've got roots, you've got the stem, you've got the seed, you've got the blueprint to what this rose is meant to be. So just now, cup your hands together and bring them to your heart center, and just place your hands, warm them up, bring some energy into your hands, bring them over your heart. And internally or externally, just say to yourself, I believe in you. 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 And remember this at any point in your journey where you don't believe in yourself, where you don't believe that something is meant to grow and bloom and blossom into full beauty, come back to this tender rose and whisper to it so softly and gracefully, I believe in you. I believe in you. We have all the resources to make this happen. And this is your unique rose. This is nobody else's. This is yours to nurture into blossoming and blooming. It can be so simple. Just have a little wiggle, take some deep breaths. And this is the start of a journey for you. I really say, like, now go and get your notepad, go and get some coloring pencils, write down or even draw the rose, draw anything that came through to you, and let the creative pulse of whatever you're birthing be creative. Coming out of the logical mind of spreadsheets and how it's going to happen and this and that and investment. We have to do that. But we also, as women, have to come back to the heart, to the creative life force that's pulsing and channeling through us, and bring a softness, an innocence, a curiosity, and an openness to what will come through if I just grab some coloring pencils and a notepad and do a bit of art therapy and draw my rose, draw the colors, write down the feeling that you get with no expectation as to what that needs to be. It's not a business plan. It's not something you're ever going to show to someone. It's just a channeling creative force of just letting the creative energy be fluid and move instead of being too controlled and structured in a business format. Just let your rose and your heart have permission to be creative and open and curious. So thank you, beautiful women. It's such an honor to be here, and I celebrate every one of you in your projects, in your motherhood, in your life on this journey. We're not alone. Thank you, Katie. Love you too. Thanks for having me here. Have a good evening. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.